Chapter 796. Battle Mage Duel. Dragon Tooth. Yi Shu had Soft Mist use Dragon Tooth to meet his opponent's attack. Chu Fei did another micro movement. His Demon Fighter shifted slightly and Dragon Tooth brushed past his body. Demon Fighter's spear looked as if it was about to strike Soft Mist, when Soft Mist twisted her body and her spear swept across horizontally along with her movement. Dang! The two spears collided with each other. Yi Shu did not want to waste his Dragon Tooth in order to dodge. Instead, he twisted to shift directions, turning his Dragon Tooth into a block. TL note, guard to block. Blocks had numerous uses. It was a basic technique that all pro players needed to firmly grasp. It was most used in fights between the same class. In fights between the same class, both sides had the same skill options and similar stats, so their attack priorities were naturally about the same. As a result, blocks were very dependable. However, battle mages were an exception. Experienced pro players would try not to block opponent attacks, because blocks relied on an attack's priority to reduce the opponent attack. According to the system, if an attack was blocked, it would still count as a hit. The attack simply hit the opponent's weapon, so it would not deal much damage. Even so, it satisfied the requirements for a chaser to spawn. Magic chasers were a battle mage's main method of attack and provided a buff. A battle mage without a chaser was no different from an elderly tiger with no teeth. In addition, the battle mage awakening skill, Battle Spirit, relied on combos to stack. An attack being blocked would still count as a hit, so the combo count would also increase by 1. Blocking several attacks in a row looked super cool, but if the opponent was a battle mage, it was the same as waiting for the opponent to activate Battle Spirit and engulf you in chasers. Facing battle mages, controlling the creation of chasers was very important, so blocking should generally not be used when possible. But on the flip side, as a battle mage, creating chasers was very important and blocking an attack was a good way to obtain chasers. Blocking an attack and an attack being blocked were both considered as hits for both sides. Because of this class characteristic, every battle mage would emphasize blocking practice. Every battle mage player was an expert at blocking. The two battle mages battling needed chasers. At the same time, neither side wanted the other side to generate chasers, making the battle much more complicated. Yi Shu used Dragon Tooth as a block. Chu Fei had also used a skill that could generate a chaser. After the block, both battle mages had a magic chaser floating around their bodies. Soft Mist had a white neutral chaser from the Dragon Tooth. Demon Mist had a pale blue ice chaser from Double Stab. Before the two chasers could completely form, the two fighters jumped backwards away from each other. Closely following afterwards, their chasers flew out from their bodies. Boom! As if the two chasers had agreed on the path beforehand, the chasers crashed into each other. With a light ding and without any flashy visual effects, there was a slight magic fluctuation before the two chasers disappeared. This type of collision also counted as hit. As a result, the two battle mages each gained a buff according to their chasers' effects. A light blue aura emanated from Demon Fighter, freezing the surrounding air like an armor made of ice. Ice chasers gave a defense buff to the user. As for Soft Mist, the white aura only emanated from her 2 feet. It looked as if she were standing on a cloud. Neutral chasers gave a movement speed buff to the user. The difference between the two chasers suddenly became the breaking point of the match. When Soft Mist rushed forward, her speed had clearly increased significantly. Demon Fighter's defense buff put him on the defensive. He did not gain any advantage until an attack hit. Buffs given by chasers lasted 20 seconds. How could Yi Shu waste this opportunity? Utilizing his superior movement speed, he moved nimbly into a position to use Sky Strike. Demon Fighter was at a disadvantage in terms of movement speed compared to Soft Mist, so he had no way of dodging it. Chu Fei immediately thrust his spear in order to block the attack. However, Soft Mist's spear suddenly twisted and completed an end. Demon Fighter failed to block the attack and he was launched into the air. Your decision making still isn't good enough. You see me use Dragon Tooth, yet you give me a chaser for free. You could have cancelled your double stab there. Why are you in such a rush? Yi Shu said. The previous exchange of skills hadn't been necessary. Even though Soft Mist had blocked the attack, Chu Fei had used double stab, which attacked in 2 stages. In between the 2 stabs, the spear had to be retracted. How else could there be a second stab? At that moment, Chu Fei could have cancelled his skill. If he timed it well enough, he could have retracted it in the middle of the first attack, so Dragon Tooth wouldn't block it. Then, he could have followed with the second stage and completed the attack. Chu Fei, whose character had been launched into the air, immediately realized it too. So I can do that there. I really was too hasty. Chu Fei grinded his teeth. He turned his character in midair, but he couldn't see any sign of soft mist. Vanishing Step. This was a high-leveled technique used to combo in the air. Against normal players, using such a high-leveled technique was superfluous. Very few normal players could steady their characters while in the air. As for pro players, in order to counter this, they invented Vanishing Step. Chu Fei still wasn't too good with this technique. It was because this technique required vast amounts of experience. Without a few years of accumulated experience, it would be very difficult to pull off. Even if he couldn't pull it off himself, that didn't mean he was helpless against it. There was no such thing in glory as an invincible technique. Chu Fei spun around twice, but still couldn't locate soft mist. During this time, he ate 2 attacks. After these 2 attacks, Chu Fei decisively made a move. Demon Fighter stopped turning around in an attempt to see soft mist and used Tyrant's Destruction as if he knew her location. Sure enough, soft mist was inside Tyrant's Destruction's range. Whether this attack was blocked or dodged, soft mist would be forced to move away from Demon Fighter. Vanishing Step required the user to be within a certain range. This attack completely dismantled Vanishing Step. Not bad. You can find my location after just the second attack, Yi Shu said again. After escaping, Chu Fei was on guard. Sure enough, soft mist rushed towards him. Chu Fei immediately rolled without thinking and let out a falling flower palm. Soft mist leapt backwards and used double stab at the same time. Chu Fei did not dodge it. He had Demon Fighter use Sky Strike to trade attacks and launch soft mist into the air. Their attacks traded. Soft mist was knocked into the air. Demon Fighter may have been hit by double stab, but double stab did not have a brief stun effect like Dragon Tooth. He took the damage and chased after soft mist to attack. Suddenly, a blue light flashed in front of him. An ice chaser had smashed into him. Hit. Elemental chasers not only dealt more damage than neutral chasers, but they also brought a debuff to the enemy. Ice chasers would slow the target. The probability of the slow and the effects depended on the skill level. Chu Fei could not tell how many skill points had been put into soft mist's ice chaser, but when he checked his character's debuff status, he saw that the slow had been triggered. There's still enough time. Chu Fei measured the distance between Demon Fighter and soft mist. He felt like even with the slow, there was still enough time to attack soft mist while she was still in hit stun. He immediately attacked, but his spear moved slower than he had expected. His attack unexpectedly missed. Not good. Chu Fei suddenly realized that he had made an error in judgment. Then, he saw soft mist turn her body and send over her spear. Like a sharp sword, the spear swung down onto Chu Fei's Demon Fighter, nailing him to the ground. Battle Mage skill, Furious Dragon Strikes the Heart. This attack had little startup lag and little ending lag. When the skill was completed, soft mist was still in the air. Yi Shu's voice floated down. Did you miscount my combo count? Yes. Chu Fei had realized it too. This was his mistake. He had miscounted soft mist's combo count. For a battle mage, the benefits of a high combo count wasn't just from battle spirit. The damage and effects of a chaser could also be strengthened through a higher combo count. The higher the combo count, the stronger a chaser. The passive buff from a chaser was fixed though. Only a higher skill level would change it. Without knowing the battle mage's combo count, the power of the chaser could not be determined accurately. Chu Fei had just committed this mistake. When soft mist landed on the ground, Demon Fighter had just gotten up. He immediately charged towards soft mist and the two battle mages began clashing again. The spectators watched in awe. It currently looked like Demon Fighter was slightly on the disadvantage, but he wasn't getting crushed. At every crucial moment, Demon Fighter seemed to be able to counterattack. At Club Excellent Era's studio, Li Rui and the other trainees were stunned. Finally, one of them turned their heads to look at Li Rui. His expression was doubtful and puzzled. He asked, unsure, Brother Li, isn't this a coaching match? Chapter 797. Coaching match. A coaching match was a match focused on teaching. This type of match wasn't about victory. The coach would purposefully leave openings during the match, prompting the other to make a decision. The coach obviously had to be an amazing player, but the trainee also had to have some degree of skill. If a coaching match was fought with an amateur or someone who simply played for fun, they wouldn't be able to understand the prompts. Out of the people who knew glory, those from the training camps of pro teams were most familiar with coaching matches. Occasionally, they would have the opportunity to practice against pro players, and these face-offs would usually be in the form of coaching matches. As for normal players, even if they were skilled enough to participate in a coaching match, they wouldn't get the chance. As this match between Soft Mist and Chu Fei went on, the onlookers had that sort of feeling. This was clearly a coaching match. The pauses to give openings were rather obvious. This sort of tempo wouldn't be found in a usual match, only in a coaching match. The first one to voice this, directed his suspicions to Li Rui, the most skilled among them. Meanwhile, Li Rui was dumbstruck, because he had similar suspicions, but at the same time, he could hardly believe it, so he didn't say anything. But when they saw the uncertainty on his face and the same expression reflected on one another, they knew that their conclusions were similar. To be able to fight a coaching match with Chu Fei, wasn't this opponent a bit too terrifying? Though everyone could guess that Yi Chu was probably the one fighting, they never realized that Yi Chu's strength was so overwhelming. The Yi Chu from half a year ago could fight a coaching match with Chu Fei, and half a year later he still retained the ability to do so. No one knew more about the diligence Chu Fei had shown this half-year than the members of the training camp. They could envy him, they could be jealous of him, but none of them could ignore the efforts he had made. Chu Fei was already very good, and after half a year of non-stop training, he would only be better. Yet, he could still be pulled into a coaching match. Was this coaching match not a blow to his pride? Never mind Chu Fei who was in the arena, even those on the sidelines felt a bit discouraged. Had half a year of effort not made any difference in the chasm between their skill? These gods, just how much better were they? After careful consideration, they each still ended up worrying for themselves. They suddenly realized, the gods they met within their clubs were far more imposing than they had thought. Yet in the alliance, those on par with the gods weren't uncommon. What was a god? Today, these children truly began to understand through the presence of the obvious disparity in skill displayed in front of them. In the arena, the match raged on. But after having suspicions of the true face of this match, the training camp members could gradually confirm that this really was a coaching match. But that didn't mean Chu Fei knew. This was something that those who often participated in coaching matches understood. When you knew about the intentions behind it, it would become obvious, but to the participant involved, it may not be so clear. This victory was one they no longer had hope for. If the person who dared to pull you into fighting a coaching match played seriously, you had no chance of winning. And for Yi Chu, he didn't seem to care about victory either. Rather than prompting good decisions, the coaching match exposed all kinds of flaws and problems Chu Fei had. Under Yi Chu's guidance, Chu Fei's technique was full of holes. But who here hadn't fought Chu Fei before? If it wasn't for this match, none of them would believe Chu Fei could end up like this. This battle had gone on for quite a while, the two characters seemed to be continuously fighting for the upper hand, and the audience kept cheering for Demon Fighter. However, everyone in the Excellent Era workroom had long since gone quiet. They knew that the entire situation was under Yi Chu's complete control. The only reason the battle had dragged on was because Yi Chu was fighting a coaching match, not seriously trying to win. Many of the openings that Chu Fei revealed were intentionally ignored. They couldn't help but look towards Chu Fei. He wasn't still oblivious, was he? And what they saw on Chu Fei's face was intense focus, teeth gritted, he seemed to be giving it his all to win. He had no idea. That was something everyone realized immediately. Despite his efforts, the first one to fall was still Chu Fei's Demon Fighter. A deafening thud drew everyone's attention. Chu Fei had slammed his fist against the table. His displeasure with the result was clear as day. Chu Fei was, indeed, displeased. Just a little more. That's what he thought. Yet, at that moment he heard the other speak up. Save the video and have a good look over it later. Just as Chu Fei wanted to demand an explanation, Soft Mist left the arena. Chu Fei, feeling a bit lost, glanced around himself only to see everyone staring at him with shock. Chu Fei knew he had lost his cool. No one had seen him behave so uncharacteristically before. But his desire for victory was strong. He had wanted to use a match of glory to teach the other a lesson. Unfortunately, he had failed. You okay, Chu Fei? Someone asked. Chu Fei shook his head. He was still going over the last words Yi Chu had given him. Demon Fighter was still lying prone in the arena. Chu Fei saved the match, and then withdrew from the IT. Happy also finally switched players with Steamed Bun Invasion standing ready. As soon as Chu Fei saw that it wasn't Soft Mist, he exited the arena. Chen Yahui started ordering another to take his place, but Chu Fei's attention was elsewhere. He opened the recording at once. Not long after, he was dumbstruck. Coaching matches were clear the audience, but not to the one playing in the match. During the match, Chu Fei gave it his all and fought to win, but eventually lost in the end. He really had thought so. But looking at the recording now, he knew that wasn't what happened. This was a coaching match, a patient and meticulous coaching match. Even when Yi Chu was still at excellent era, the coaching matches they had fought had never been so thorough. A full 23 minutes. To fight one-on-one for 23 minutes was probably harder than ending it in 2 minutes. The execution of such a patient coaching match was performed despite the fact that Chu Fei had no idea, and gave it his all, trying to win over his opponent. Seeing the two figures on the screen exchange blow after blow, Chu Fei was completely stunned. His flaws, his problems, the things he needed to work on, after Yi Chu's departure, how long had it been since these were pointed out to him? But in just this one match, they were revealed to him scene by scene. What painstaking care was put into these 23 minutes? If Yi Chu had wanted to win, it would have taken only 2 minutes. If he wanted to fight a coaching match just to mock him, he didn't need to put in so much effort to unveil all of Chu Fei's flaws. If it was someone who had abandoned their team, someone who had used retirement to escape responsibility, would he really put so much care into guiding their juniors? Chu Fei couldn't continue watching the recording anymore. He suddenly stood up. Everyone looked over in surprise, but Chu Fei didn't speak to anyone, swiftly walking out the room. Where are you going, Chu Fei? By the time Chen Yahui had asked his question, Chu Fei had already left. On the computer he had been using, the screen was still frozen on the images of the recording. That guy, after realizing it was a coaching match, I bet he couldn't take it, someone guessed. After leaving the workroom, it didn't take Chu Fei long to walk out of the club and head directly towards Happy a little ways down on the other side of the road. He had to know. Before, he hadn't looked for answers because he thought there was no need. His faith in the God he respected was immovable, and he believed he could do no wrong. That's why all the accusations, all the rumors, even from within the club, failed to convince him. To him, none of it was real. As for Yi Chu never coming out to explain anything, he didn't think it was strange. From what he knew of Captain Yi Chu, he only cared about glory and victory. As for this other nonsense, say what you want, you think the captain cares? Yes, he never cared. Our captain was always like that. When he thought of his, Chu Fei had felt proud. Which was why when the club officially confirmed some of those rumors, Chu Fei seethed. Then when the media exposed that Lord Grimm wasn't Yi Chu, and after, he found that Yi Chu was using Happy's accounts to stand opposing them in the arena, Chu Fei's conflicting emotions were something no one would be able to understand. Yet now, he had seen the coaching match Yi Chu fought with him, with that same patience, that same care. He was so thorough, too, using over 20 minutes. For him, it was like being told that this was the last time. Everything that could be taught was given to him in this match, because it was possible that there might not be another chance. Chu Fei couldn't sit still anymore, he had to confirm it for himself, he had to know the truth. Happy Internet Cafe's free internet usage promotion was still going on, and the place was still crowded with people, but those who came to talk trash even while taking advantage of the free internet were no more. Team Happy's skill had been revealed, sarcasm and mockery needed some basis of truth, but this basis the players thought they had were being shattered over and over again by Happy. Today was a little different. The undefeatable Soft Mist from Happy finally met her match today. It was unfortunate that most of the face-slappers had long since left. Having to eat your words every time you tried to mock someone wasn't appealing, so none of them dared come back, even with the free internet. Chu Fei charged into the internet cafe, but there were people everywhere. Yi Chu, where on earth should he go to find him? Chapter 798. Defeat after defeat. For the others of Excellent Era, Chu Fei's sudden departure left them confused. They exchanged puzzled glances, but none of them really cared much. All those from the training camp were rivals, so Chu Fei leaving would only make them happier. On the other hand, Chen Yahui was a bit worried. That guy was much more skilled than the other training camp members. He had taken notice of the few times Chu Fei let his expressions slip through. Coming from the training camp, he could definitely tell that it was a training match, and that the opponent had to be Yi Chu. And Chu Fei's strange mood started from when Yi Chu stepped into the arena. Perhaps the others hadn't heard, or just didn't care, but Chen Yahui noticed, upon stepping into the arena, Yi Chu had started talking to Chu Fei. I am grateful for your guidance. Chen Yahui could clearly hear the coldness of that tone. Considering Chu Fei and Yi Chu's relationship, just the tone used was a big hint that something was wrong. Maybe Chu Fei had fallen out with Yi Chu. It wasn't hard to guess why either. How could there be a shortage of people who were disgruntled with Yi Chu, what with his recent actions? Chu Fei hated Yi Chu. When Chen Yahui came to this conclusion, he immediately felt a connection with Chu Fei. He even wanted to talk trash about Yi Chu with Chu Fei. On the battlefield, the newly arrived Steam Bun Invasion won a match. The training camp member who had been smashed out of the match by a brick was flushed in bewilderment. The person's name was Bai Shengshan, people usually called him Little Bai. After a few exchanges with Steam Bun Invasion, he thought that this guy was the real noob, turning to smile at his companions, watch me crush this noob. That's right. He had thought that this opponent was very much an amateur. How could he be skilled with such simple approaches? He was just fast and technical. For a pro player, this kind of player was nothing but a noob. Bai Shengshan had confidence that he could deal with him swiftly. He had set himself up, only to find that reality wasn't so. Steam Bun Invasion fought without much thought or depth in a terribly childish way. But, shouldn't there be a limit to how childish, how lacking in thought and depth you could be? He had never seen anyone who was so lacking in thought, so lacking in depth, so utterly childish. Bai Shengshan's scorn towards his opponent exceeded his own expectations over and over again. That chaotic fighting style wasn't a style he had witnessed before in any brawler. Players who were wild and unrefined in style weren't uncommon, but never before had he seen such a crazy style. What on earth was this mess? Eventually, Bai Shengshan's character fell to a brick. His disbelief and anger made him want to yell at this player, "That's not how you play Glory." That's right. That was what Bai Shengshan believed. Of everything he knew about in Glory, there was no such style as the one that had been displayed before him. What nonsense was this? And yet it was just this messy play style that defeated him. He didn't want to believe it. That must be beginner's luck. He hadn't been prepared at all for someone so reckless. Did he really think he could win more than once with such a style? The match that was foretold to be played according to the regular tournament rules never happened, so Bai Shengshan ignored the rules too, angrily stepping back into the arena. He wanted revenge, he wanted to wash away this humiliation, and he wanted to tell this opponent, that's not how you play Glory. It's not that simple. Yes, Glory wasn't so simple. And when Bai Shengshan's character fell once more, the one who realized this was himself. He thought he had seen through this opponent, thought that he could easily turn the tides, yet in end he was still the one who fell. His opponent was as messy and reckless as ever, so much so that it made his intentions completely incomprehensible. Sometimes he would fight with a steady tempo, sometimes he would make amateurish mistakes, and sometimes he would achieve incredibly smart plays. How are you meant to fight such an opponent? Your experience was useless, your predictions were never right. Though it was a one-on-one fight, Bai Shengshan felt as if he were in a free-for-all, and suddenly, bang bang, he was hit. Bai Shengshan still wanted to make a comeback, but he was afraid. He was afraid that not only would he fail in ridding himself of this humiliation, he would then further humiliate himself. As for the others, they were also carefully studying Steam Bun Invasion. None of them dared to take him lightly. Not even Li Rui. This guy was utterly strange, completely beyond the comprehension of experts of Glory like them. They all stared at one another helplessly, not daring to step forwards to fight. Then came the awkwardness from ignoring the rules. If everyone had just played by the rules they said in the beginning, wouldn't Steam Bun Invasion have just left of his own accord? Yet since no one cared about the rules, he still stayed in the arena despite winning. What were they to do now? It's not like they could go up and say, "We're too afraid to fight you, please switch out." If they said that, then even winning the next match wouldn't win back their face. Asking them to obey the standard tournament rules would be even worse. After all, they were the ones who violated them first. Having thought of this, Chen Yahui glared at Li Rui in irritation. The good thing was that they didn't make any promises about this. If they won, then they would have been happy about getting one over Team Happy. If they lost, then they can just retreat quietly. It's not like this was their first time getting tormented by Yi Chu. They could take this humiliation. What's wrong? Does no one dare to try anymore? At times like this, Chen Yahui had to try and prod them a little. He could tell that they had been startled by Steam Bun Invasion's incomprehensible style, and without any firm understanding of how to deal with it, none of them wanted to try. Yet, you couldn't just give up a match because you had no idea of how to counter your opponent. Just thinking of it made Chen Yahui furious. If it wasn't for the fact that it was inappropriate for someone of his standing, he would definitely berate these guys. At such a time, he wished Chu Fei were here. If it was Chu Fei, he wouldn't cower no matter what his opponent's identity was. With these guys, they would probably surrender the moment Yi Chu came out. Chen Yahui's provocation worked. As soon as the words left his mouth, they all saw it for what it was, but were still unable to remain unaffected out of shame. Li Rui, who was most prone to overconfidence, stood forward. "Give me another account." "I'll do it," Li Rui said. "Fuck, you can't even win. All you do is switch accounts. How many battle mages do you think I have?" Chen Yahui criticized in his head, but only allowed the latter half to be spoken. "There aren't that many accounts, so don't waste them." There was no lack of mockery in his words, and Li Rui noticed, but had no way of retorting. He was only in the training camp after all, so it wasn't unexpected that the guild leader wouldn't think much of him. On the other hand, Li Rui didn't want to get on this person's bad side. The guild leader had no say over members of the training camp, but it wouldn't hard for him to soil Li Rui's reputation. He was a senior member of the club, after all. Li Rui quietly accepted Chen Yahui's remark and returned to the arena after taking another battle mage account. Li Rui's abilities were above that of the others present. As for Steamed Bun, his chaotic style didn't make him invincible. After a messy brawl, Li Rui finally managed to deal with Steamed Bun. Li Rui felt no shortage of relief upon winning. Though he won, it wasn't easy. It would be hard to say how another match would go. Yet Steam Bun Invasion didn't seem to have any plans on letting Li Rui out of a rematch. He stayed standing in the arena despite his loss. Li Rui knew that without rules this just wouldn't work. Even if people lost, they would just fight again. Among all the repeated defeats and victories, he would have a hard time standing out, and their goal of humiliating the other side would never be achieved. But how should he do this? If he says the loser should be swapped out, wouldn't he also get forced from the arena? He stayed despite his loss, too. Just as Li Rui was trying to figure out how to go about this, he suddenly realized something. He had already switched accounts. He wasn't a loser who refused to come down, he had a new account now. What was there to be afraid of? As soon as he thought it through, Li Rui sent a message: "If we keep going like this, it'll be endless. Why don't we have the loser switch out?" At this moment, Li Rui had a plan in mind. This was an individual competition. Compared to the group arena, 1 versus many was much easier to achieve. Unlike now, the winner's health wouldn't be replenished in the group arena. He should take this chance with this mismatch of individual and group arena rules to defeat more opponents. That way he would definitely stand out. Seeing Steam Bun Invasion step down, Li Rui was overjoyed. Soft Mist and Steam Bun Invasion were rather strong, and victory against them wasn't certain, but now they've both switched out. Who else does Team Happy have? Are there any other experts? Yi Chu wouldn't come up, would he? Just as Li Rui was beginning to feel uneasy, someone stepped into the arena. Windward Formation, a warlock. Windward Formation hadn't fought many matches. He wasn't as well known as Soft Mist, and he wasn't a battle mage. Li Rui was relieved. The match started, and very soon, Li Rui wanted to cry. Defeat. He lost again. Just a little more. He was so close to winning, but his luck today had simply been abysmal. Li Rui didn't want to lose this chance. He hardened his heart and sought Chen Yahui out once more. "Give me another account." The 4th time. Li Rui had swapped accounts 4 times now. Never mind Chen Yahui, even the training camp members were feeling a little ashamed on his behalf. Yet Chen Yahui didn't refuse him, giving him another account. In the end, he lost by just a bit once more. F***CK, Li Rui was furious, looking back at Chen Yahui. This time Chen Yahui decided to be nice and just tossed him another card. Once more, he entered the arena. Once more, he lost by just a bit. Li Rui stared dumbly at his screen. Losing thrice in a row by just a bit. It doesn't seem possible to say it's simply bad luck. It's not like he could have the same sort of luck every time. This person's a little strange. Let me test him out with another account. Li Rui finally had a proper excuse. By the 6th Battle Mage account, Li Rui had already started to pay close attention. This time he lost again, and again, it was just by a small margin, and now he understood why. This tiny margin meant that if he just put in a bit more effort, if he was just a little luckier, he could overcome it. His opponent was intentionally manipulating him, toying with him, mocking him. This tiny margin was a very much despicable one. Bang! Li Rui got up and stormed out. Angry and humiliated, he couldn't stay any longer. Chapter 799. Nonsense. Li Rui also ran away. Chen Yahui brought 6 gamers from the training camp with him, and 2 ran away. They didn't have enough for a 5-man team battle. But was there a need to fight any longer? Chen Yahui didn't think so. Those 6 were outstanding among the training camp in Excellent Era. If they needed 6 players from the training camp to form a team to represent Excellent Era, he believed that only those 6 qualified. And these 6 failed to get the upper hand on Team Happy. No, that statement would be too immodest. What upper hand? They were clearly on the losing side. Chu Fei's performance was relatively steady and managed to defeat Tang Ru, who was in the spotlight. However, he immediately alarmed Yi Chu, whose position would unlikely be touched by them. But apart from that, Li Rui had a strong sense of self-importance and believed he was outstanding. But he made a joke out of himself by switching 6 accounts. After being tormented back and forth, he only managed to win against Steam Bun Invasion once, before he was toyed with by a warlock called Windward Formation. As for the other 4, only Bai Shengshan managed to have a go, but he also made a fool of himself. He said he would bully the noob, but he ended up being oppressed by the so-called noob twice. He lost to the point that he didn't dare to try again. The 3's performance was enough to show their level of skill against Happy. Chen Yahui no longer felt the need for the other 3 to have a go. The more they tried, the more they would lose. Even if they happened to win once in a while, the difference between their wins and losses weren't enough to embarrass Team Happy. If they couldn't face slap, what was the point? Chen Yahui didn't stop Li Rui from leaving, while the remaining 4 looked at one another in dismay. They looked at Windward Formation, who was still standing at the arena field. This was a plot Li Rui had set up in order to be in the limelight, but now they had fallen into it. Windward Formation was clearly more skilled than Soft Mist and Steam Bun Invasion. If Li Rui was toyed around with, then they wouldn't fare any better. Why would they line up to be tormented? Everyone came here to face slap. If they couldn't, why would they turn their cheeks to be slapped? The 4 didn't utter a word, neither did Chen Yahui. Windward Formation even started asking for the next person to come up. Then, the door was pushed open and Chu Fei returned. Chu Fei's didn't hide the disappointment from his face. He ran to Happy Internet Cafe, and looked around several times. He thoroughly checked every customer before each computer, but he still couldn't find the person he was looking for. Of course he couldn't find them. Yi Shu's group moved to the rented apartment much earlier on, and Chen Guo was also with them. As for Happy Internet Cafe, after it overcame the obstacles and won their way through all the challenges, the face-slapping group stopped showing up. The customers present in Happy Internet Cafe were those who came for the free internet. Happy no longer had to keep the promise of staying free until the season. Since it was peaceful, Chen Guo didn't need to supervise it. She could now have fun and hang around with the other group. Chu Fei couldn't find Yi Chu, so he returned disappointed. Chu Fei didn't have his contact info. It used to be effortless to find Yi Chu in the club. How could he have known such a day would come? There would be an opportunity somehow. Chu Fei didn't greet anyone when he returned, but only quietly returned to his seat. No one touched his computer, so the screen was fixed on the scene when he last fought with Soft Mist. His demon fighter was on the floor, while Soft Mist stood on his side. Although she was a female character different from One Autumn Leaf, the character still looked majestic. She was just like the silhouette he always admired. Every character carried the player's spirit within them. Using this to distinguish the player was more accurate than looking at one's habits. Chu Fei suddenly remembered how Yi Chu used to tell him this. It sounded incredible, but he didn't really believe it. He was now witnessing it for himself. Even though it was a different character and she stood there without moving, Chu Fei felt that this was Yi Chu, the battle god and One Autumn Leaf. He was always there. He had never left. He had never changed. He only cared about winning or losing in glory. To Chu Fei, he was always the instructor who gave his all. Even if it was a situation like this, Yi Chu was still the same. He would guide and help Chu Fei with a coaching match. All of Chu Fei's doubts were erased at once. He did not need to find Yi Chu in person to ask for the truth. Yi Chu had already used his match to explain everything. The player's spirit could be passed on through the character. Chu Fei was filled with enthusiasm and a smile showed up on his face. After he looked around, he realized everyone was staring at him. He knew that everyone would be puzzled after seeing him running back and forth recklessly. But when he scanned past everyone, he failed to find Li Rui. "Where's Li Rui?" Chu Fei asked. "He left," someone answered. "He left?" Chu Fei was puzzled. "Alright, let's call it a day," Chen Yahui spoke. Even though Chu Fei returned, there was no need to continue today's challenge. They had already lost so many matches. What was the point? They couldn't switch accounts endlessly. Li Rui have already used 6 battle mages. The spectators weren't stupid. Even if they were fans of Excellent Era and the ratio of battle mages were greater, it would have been too much of a coincidence to gather up so many battle mages for a challenge at once. "Then we'll take our leave." Bai Shengshan could no longer continue. When he heard Chen Yahui's declaration, he got up, informed everyone, and was ready to escape. It was very embarrassing for him for viewing the opponent as a noob, but end up being tormented for 2 matches. He could no longer hold it in. Even though the other 3 didn't fight, they didn't feel regretful at all. If they really went, they might have ended up embarrassing themselves like Li Rui and Bai Shengshan. If such an embarrassing story was spread in the club, it might affect their future. The 3 also informed others of their leave and left. Chu Fei didn't have to need to stay, but he wanted to save the recording of the previous match, so he hastily typed on the computer. Chen Yahui had already accepted Chu Fei as a Yi Chu hater like him, so he came over to watch Chu Fei upload the document of the recording onto the disc. He smiled and said, "Little Chu was not bad today." Chu Fei turned around and smiled back. He was not Mo Fan. Chu Fei would respond politely to the befriendment of others. This was unlike Mo Fan, who would always have an emotionless and deadpan face. "Would you like me to get you a USB drive?" Chen Yahui made a stance that was prepared to ransack the boxes. No need, no need. It's almost done uploading," Chu Fei said. Little Chu was not bad. Chen Yahui nodded and repeated what he said previously. "You never forget to improve yourself." "I'm supposed to," Chu Fei said. "When you fought that match, was the opponent Yi Chu?" Chen Yahui asked. Chu Fei nodded. His eyes continued to gaze at the screen's uploading progress. 36.8%. He was sneaking here and there. Who knows what sort of trick he'll pull next time, Chen Yahui said. Chu Fei turned his head around. His expression changed. Chen Yahui thought he had found a friend and continued to speak. A match is a match, but he deliberately made it into a training match. What was the meaning of it? To insult you? Chu Fei smiled with disapproval. He was about to say something, but Chen Yahui continued with his tirade. Forming a grassroots team and pulling off all kinds of ridiculous stunts. Is he deliberately trying to irritate us? This guy must have noticed Excellent Era's drop in performance. Excellent Era current situation must have been a part of his conspiracy. As for him, he left us midway. Chen Yahui continued to speak nonsense because anything malicious against Yi Chu must be satisfying to hear for Yi Chu haters. Chen Yahui wanted to befriend Chu Fei because his skills were pretty good and he would become a helpful supporter of his. Even though Chu Fei was under Sun Jiang's oppression, it didn't mean his future was in total darkness. Whatever happened, he was better than Li Rui and those other guys. Besides, he was a Yi Chu hater, so it would be fun chatting together. Chu Fei looked at the screen. The uploading bar depicted 57.7%. Chen Yahui didn't see much of a reaction from Chu Fei, so he continued to search for their resonating point and spoke badly of Yi Chu. This was something he was good at. Let's talk about you. You originally had a bright future, but he just suddenly left. It forced the club to find Sun Shang to save us from our current situation. That's why you're in such an awkward position. Does he have no sense of responsibility? To give you hope and then destroy it. Is it fun to mock your dreams? The more Chen Yahui spoke, the more he entered the role. He even thought of his previous self, and his anger immediately got out of hand. The screen's uploading bar continued to increase. 80.2%. Yi Chu is so hypocritical. He likes to speak all sort of nonsense like glory, winning, and teamwork, but what did he do? He dragged us all into the mud and left us like that. Why don't we hear him talking about winning or teamwork anymore? Hypocrite. Bah, Chen Yahui spat with disdain. The uploading of the recording happened to reach 100%. Oh, it finished uploading. Alright, you can return. Remember to visit when you're free, Chen Yahui said, when the uploading finished. Chu Fei stood up and turned around. What Chen Yahui saw was not a friendly smile, but a fist. It smashed into Chen Yahui's face. Chen Yahui's surroundings spun and stars appeared before his eyes. He felt as if his brain was smacked out by the force of the punch. His body tipped back and stumbled. When he lost his balance, he crashed and pushed a table out of place while he fell and rolled under it. Chen Yahui didn't think that Chu Fei had such strength. They spent their whole day hanging before the computers, so they shouldn't be well built. But when the fist came his way, Chen Yahui was beat down under the table and lost his sense of direction. His lips felt as if it were on fire, and his front teeth seemed loose. Between the buzzing noise in his ears, he heard Chu Fei say, "Nonsense." Chapter 800. Not easy to report. After Chu Fei finished talking, he turned around and left the game studio. Chen Yahui lay underneath the desk. He didn't recover for a long time. What just happened? Did I just get punched? It was an actual slap to the face. It wasn't some insult thrown online, but a punch to the face. Chen Yahui had trouble wrapping his head around it. This wasn't the game. Why was there still fighting? Did he somehow transcend worlds? Chen Yahui wasn't the only stunned. There were other employees at the game studio. Everyone had seen Chu Fei punch their senior to the ground. Everyone stared in shock. A minute passed since Chu Fei left. It was only then did they realize, wasn't their boss still lying under the table? He's not dead, right? Everyone hastily got up. They immediately circled around and then saw their boss get up from underneath the table with difficulty. Someone close to him supported him up. Chen Yahui was just barely standing. He lifted his head up. The surrounding people stifled a laugh. The legendary sausage mouth. They had finally seen it themselves with their own eyes. When the mouth swelled up after being hit, it really looked like he had two sausages hanging on his face. Laughing at this moment wasn't appropriate though. Everyone tried their hardest to endure it. Those who couldn't hang on gave an excuse saying they needed to get some water or grab a stool to temporarily leave. Chen Yahui was helped onto a stool. He refused any water poured out for him with a wave of his hands. The studio was quiet. No one said anything. They were all trusted subordinates of Chen Yahui. If not, Chen Yahui wouldn't have denounced Yi Chu in front of them, but it was because of this very reason that Chen Yahui was punched in the face by Chu Fei. This matter wouldn't be easy to handle. Even if he reported him, Chu Fei had only punched him. Although hitting someone wasn't right, from the club's perspective, it wasn't morally wrong in that situation. Chen Yahui wasn't injured or crippled. His lips had swelled to two sausages now, but it would heal after a few days. On the other hand, he had talked all sorts of trash about Yi Chu. From the club's perspective, this was definitely a grave error. Even if the higher-ups like the manager and the boss had the same thoughts as Chen Yahui, none of them would voice it like Chen Yahui had. In reality, the club wasn't afraid to offend any players. The club was afraid of offending fans. Yi Chu had contributed greatly to Excellent Era's success. The club wanted to reduce his influence, but directly denouncing him like Chen Yahui had definitely wasn't a viable option. Even if Yi Chu really had been a malignant tumor to the team, when the club kicked him out, they would still praise him and send him off with their blessings. The club would only cross the line if even the fans spurned him too. Was Yi Chu that type? Definitely not. Even though there were many voices of condemnation towards Yi Chu recently, that was just because of the current situation. The fans had acted on their own. Excellent Era could only reveal their knowledge of the situation to the public. For example, Yi Chu had formed Team Happy, Yi Chu was Lord Grimm, Yi Chu had refused their invitation to return. All of this had been true. The club intended on stirring up trouble, but they could only fan the flames. They revealed actions that the fans wouldn't understand and support and let the fans decide for themselves. How could they directly slander Yi Chu and let the fans choose? If they did that, it would result in the opposite of what they desired. Club Excellent Era's attitude towards Yi Chu was like this both internally and externally. Chen Yahui had overstepped his bounds, slandering Yi Chu in an attempt to win over Chu Fei. If the club investigated the matter, the club wouldn't attach much importance to Chu Fei's punch, but his unadorned stance towards Yi Chu. The higher-ups could talk about their true thoughts privately amongst themselves, but if you go out and start blabbering, aren't you being too unreliable? Chen Yahui's brain wasn't only fixed onto glory. As someone holding an important position in the club, he had to worry about his career too. Analyzing the pros and cons of a situation was a necessary skill. He had no way of launching an investigation into the matter because it was his provocation to begin with. He had misjudged Chu Fei's attitude and employed such an unreliable method. There wasn't even enough time for him to cover up the incident. How could he dare to blow up the incident and report it? He wouldn't forget that punch though. As the matter stood, he couldn't take revenge at the moment, but he could grasp at a weakness he found in the future. If not, how could the saying, "settle accounts after autumn," exist? What should he do to pass through this current obstacle? Would Chu Fei report him? Yes, logically speaking, it was also entirely possible. Chu Fei truly respected Yi Chu. As for the club, even though the higher-ups hated Yi Chu on the inside, they could only express their respect and gratitude towards him on the surface. As a result, the higher-ups might have the same thoughts as him, but someone who wantonly condemned Yi Chu would actually be outed as a pest. But if that happened, Chen Yahui wasn't worried. Little Zhao, TSS, Chen Yahui finally spoke, but it was extremely painful to open his mouth. Apart from the swelling, his lips had been cut in many areas. Senior, Little Zhao was a quick-witted fellow. When he heard his name called, he immediately went over. Go chase after him and see where that kid ran off to, Chen Yahui said. Chase him and then what? Little Zhao asked. See where he went and then report back to me, Chen Yahui said. It was like he was typing out his words in chat. Every time he spoke, his lips hurt. Okay, Little Zhao nodded his head and then ran off. Not long afterwards, Little Zhao messaged back. Chu Fei didn't go anywhere. He went back to the training camp and was using the computer in the practice room. He didn't talk to anyone? Chen Yahui asked. No, Little Zhao replied. That's fine. Come back. Chen Yahui let out a sigh of relief. It seems like after punching him, Chu Fei was too lazy to bother with anything else. Teens were still too pure. How could they have as many thoughts as Chen Yahui? You punk. You just wait. Chen Yahui gnashed his teeth. He never liked him and now he deeply hated him. Even so, Chen Yahui didn't dare to stir up any trouble using this incident. What he needed to consider was how should he explain his swollen lips to others? Excellent Era had formed a team to slap Happy's face, but it resulted in Chen Yahui being punched in real life. Not only did he need to erase these results, even in the game, Excellent Era had failed. Chen Yahui would need to at least report this failure to Kui Li. I know. I saw it, Kui Li bluntly said. In the end, he added, the boss saw it too. I'm saying the way you organized it had issues. How can you allow people who lost to keep fighting and losing? We can't achieve the face-slapping result we want. If it weren't for those losses, defeating Soft Mist after that one match would have been a perfect conclusion, Kui Li said. Chen Yahui obviously knew what he was talking about. Li Rui lost 2 matches in a row. Then, Chu Fei went up and beat Soft Mist under the context that there had been a switch of players. If Soft Mist couldn't continue fighting, that victory would have been enough. Unfortunately, Soft Mist won against Chu Fei in the next match, diluting his victory. The face slappers couldn't use this victory to back up their arguments because it could easily be countered. Good for you though. When you needed to follow the rules, you didn't follow them. When you shouldn't have followed the rules, you followed them, Kui Li continued. when he shouldn't have followed the rules referred to when Li Rui beat Steamed Bun Invasion and then kept switching accounts only to be toyed around with by that Warlock, Windward formation. All the matches had been extremely close, frustrating Li Rui to death. Li Rui. Chen Yahui discovered that everything had gone wrong because of Li Rui. Li Rui started the mess by losing to Soft Mist and then switching accounts, refusing to give up. Then, he squandered it again, when he beat Steamed Bun Invasion, demanding the other side to switch players. Then, he switched, and switched again. That B** starred. Chen Yahui never had a good impression of Li Rui before either. Now he was even more furious. At this moment, Kui Li asked, "Did you arrange for those battle mages to keep on coming out on stage again and again?" Chen Yahui hastily said. Excellent Era had looked unsightly there. Chen Yahui never had a good impression of Li Rui. Now he was even more furious. At this moment, Kui Li asked, "Did you arrange for those battle mages to keep on coming out on stage again and again?" No, Chen Yahui hastily said. Excellent Era had been toyed with. With so many battle mages coming out, the crowd could probably guess that it was someone switching between alternate accounts, let alone Kui Li. He and Chen Yahui had picked which trainees to use. Of the 6 picked, Chu Fei and Li Rui were the only 2 battle mages. It was Li Rui. He kept trying to redeem himself, so he kept on trying again and again, Chen Yahui hastily explained. He didn't like Li Rui, but if he hit a person who was already down, he would be seen as using Li Rui as a scapegoat. Kui Li's impression of him might turn bad as a result. What a mess. Then what was that in the beginning? Kui Li asked. Chen Yahui told the truth. Kui Li listened and was very unsatisfied with Li Rui's conduct, that Li Rui is too reckless. Chen Yahui did not answer. Little Chu is not bad, Kui Li said for the 3rd time today. This time, he wasn't talking about Chu Fei's performance on stage. If there was some special reason for his praise, then it would indicate his acknowledgement of him. Chen Yahui heard the praise from Kui Li and was startled. He suddenly hated how he hadn't pushed the blame onto Chu Fei instead, when he had needed to explain himself. But when he thought about it again, so many people knew. Confusing black and white would be too arrogant. Seeing Chu Fei suddenly be recognized was too unpleasant. He inadvertently touched his lips. F***ck, they're bleeding again.